Okay, so today I'm going to be talking about hiking in Utah. How many of you guys have been hiking in Utah before? Almost everybody? Fabulous. All right, so when I was asked to do this presentation, I was like, how do I do a talk about hiking that's going to have something that people don't already know? So I tried to get creative. So I have a little bit of a lot of things in this talk, guys. So I hope I have something in here that it's new to each one of you. All right, so some of it will be review, and so hopefully somewhere in here we have some things that you will be new to you. And my clicker is not working. No. Yes. Yes. It was turned off. Okay. All right. Okay, so one of the reasons why I was asked to do this presentation is because I actually get to do walks and hikes as part of my job. It's not the only thing that I do for my job, but it is one of the things that I get to do. And as an extension faculty, I get to determine what I do. And as long as I am meeting a need in my county, I can say that it's work. So I do that by focusing on the many benefits that there are to being in nature, and specifically with hiking, we are getting physical activity as well. So just to cover really briefly for you some of the reasons why, if you don't just already love being outside and it's not something you're just drawn to be in the beauty of nature, here's some extra reasons, extra motivation for you. So some of the cognitive benefits that we know about being in nature are that we get more calm and it helps to reset our brains. Have you ever had this feeling like you just need a nature break? You need to go outside, you just need to breathe some fresh air or feel the grass on your feet, anything like that. So those things are grounding for us. When we use our senses, it helps to calm us and reset our brains. So we definitely, we have that benefit. We have help with memory and attention. So we're actually able to focus better when we have had a nature break. That's kind of cool, right? So I go outside, and then when I come back in to sit down for, my computer for work, I'm able to focus better. And then also for kids, why should we take our own kids or grandkids or other people's kids, any children basically out in nature? It helps their cognitive development and promotes self-control. Wow, that's pretty amazing, right? So this is one of the reasons why like recess is really important for kids, because it's beneficial. So getting kids outside is really helpful, and it's beneficial to everybody for the cognitive benefits. All right, so when I do hikes with folks, I like to ask this question. When you're out in nature, do you ever feel this sense of awe about what you're seeing or what's surrounding you? And how does it make you feel when you have that? Like, what's the feeling that you have? Yeah, just say stuff.
Like calm, like
Calming.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. Yeah, did you have something?
It's kind of like a hug.
Oh, yeah. I love that. Yeah, it's like a hug from Mother Nature. Yeah, I love that. That's super cool. And then people might put things in the chat. Amy, can you look?
I do.
Okay, I just wanted you to be aware. Some people, when I ask questions, people put things in the chat. So if you could, okay, so if somebody could monitor that for me, I'd appreciate it. Okay, so one of the things about feeling that sense of awe is just that it really helps us. It's like helps us feel like we're connected to the universe, we're connected to nature. So it's this really cool thing that like we're in this, we're immersed in this. Really cool. So some of those emotional benefits that we've seen, and this is based in research. I promise I'm not making this up. Because if I were making it up, I wouldn't be able to do this as part of my job. And so this is actual research, guys. It increases your happipiness, perceived well-being, positive mood. So you just feel better. Do you guys ever notice that when you're outside and you get out in nature and you just it feels uplifting? Yeah. It promotes a sense of meaning and purpose in life. And I think that's connected to that sense of awe that a lot of times we have. And then it can decrease mental distress, anxiety, and depression. So effects on our mental health. So again, this is how I can rationalize and justify that I do this for my job. Part of my job. It's not the only thing I do. I do a lot of other things, but this is one of the things, and I also tell myself it while I'm doing it to help other people, it's helping me too. So I really love that. So it's one of the reasons why I'm like, even though I'm busy and I have a lot of other programming that I do, I'm like, I want to keep this because it's the one thing that I can do for myself. I'm helping other people and myself at the same time. So I love it. The physical benefits, just like any other form of exercise, if I am doing something that is, you know, getting my heart rate up, it's helping to reduce my my blood pressure, my heart rate, muscle tension, helps me reduce my stress. It's a stress management strategy and can also improve our immune system function and sleep. So one of the things that I have found really interesting about research on this, on the immune system specifically, is that there's some potential connection to those essential oils that we're exposed to when we're out in nature. So when we're around the trees and plants and all these things that we're around as we're hiking, and like you know, imagine you're rubbing up against a branch or like a tree or you know, plants, those oils are getting on you, you're absorbing them. And so there's actual research that some of those, that exposure could be partly what's helping our, these benefits to our immune system and sleep. Okay, so you might say, well, how much, if being outside is so good, do I have to be outside all the time to benefit? No, there's actually a threshold. So it's about 2 hours a week. So 120 minutes. When you think about that, it's not that much time, really, right? So it was basically a threshold. So once people reach that 120 minutes a week, they reported having greater health and well-being. The other thing that's really important is it doesn't mean you have to go for like a 2-hour hike or a 2-hour walk outside all at once. You can break it into smaller increments. So even if you're out walking your dog for, you know, 20 minutes a day over time, or 30 minutes a day, if it adds up to that 2 hours, then you're meeting that threshold. So it's a reason to get a dog, right? So you can have a dog to walk to get you outside. Okay, so now that we've talked about some of the benefits, let's talk about where we can hike, which is about anywhere in Utah. Pretty much you can walk outside your back door and be like, I can just walk down the street. And it's amazing. It's amazing to look at. But I wanted to highlight just how much we have here in the state and where some of these places are. So as far as the national parks, monuments, and historical recreational areas, we have 5 national parks. Who can name them? Arches, Zion, Bryce, Canyonlands, and Capitol Reef, the one that most people haven't heard of or been to, but it's a super cool park. Have you guys been to it? Yeah, it's super cool. It's worth going to, guys. It has some really neat stuff in it. So I know it's one of those that people don't get to, but it's pretty cool. So we have the 5 national parks, the 8 national monuments, 2 national recreation areas, 1 national historic park, 3 national historic trails, and 18 national recreational trails. And you see that you do have some in the north, but most of these national areas are down in the southern part of the state. Okay, national forests. National forests are everywhere around the state. So we have 7 national forests in the state. So you can, I don't have the map of where these are, but I want to point out where, well, so the Uinta Wasatch Cache, obviously that's going to be the one that kind of comes up from Salt Lake to this area here. But when I pointed out before Fish Lake, how many of you guys have been to Fish Lake National Forest? Yeah? What's special about that one? Very pretty. Is there a cool thing there nearby? There is a lake. There's a lake there. Does anybody know what's around that area? No? Okay. I will tell you. It is the largest living organism in the world. Do you guys know what it's called? Yeah? Pando. Yes, it's called Pando. So Pando is basically a grove of aspen trees. That's right. So the aspen trees, it's one living organism. They share the same root system and the same, they're coming from, it's cloned itself. So it's basically just this huge, massive area of tree And the cool part about aspen trees is that when you can tell which ones are part of the same organism because they will all turn color at the same time and the same color. So really cool. So you can tell like when you look up on the mountain and you see like, you know, like an area of orange or an area of yellow, like you can be like, okay, that's one organism, that's one organism. It's pretty cool. So you can kind of tell by the areas. So yes, so if you ever get a chance to go down to that Fish Lake National Forest area, you can check out Pando. And it's really cool. And it's really easy to do if you're just coming up from Capitol Reef. So I say go visit Capitol Reef, and then on the way up, back up, you can visit Fish Lake National Forest and see Pando. Okay, guess what? There are 46 state parks in Utah. 46, guys, that's a lot. They are spread throughout 24 of our counties. Do you guys have some state parks here in Cache County? I think you do. Anybody know what they're called? You have Hiram State Park? Yep. Is that it? Maybe that's it. All right, so Hiram State Park, yes. So there's a nice, I've gone paddleboarding there. It's a very nice area. But there are tons of local parks and trails also. So how do you go about finding what you're looking for? How do you find trails? So how many of you guys have used All Trails, the All Trails app? Okay, so I think it is amazing. It's great. Anytime I want to do a hike, I will look up information. I'm going to go through more detail about how you can use it and the information that you can find on it. But a couple of other ones are summitpost.org and then the hikingproject.com. So there's some additional ones for you. And then the Gaia GPS app, which allows you to have offline maps and routes too. Okay, so before I go on, does anybody have some bucket list hikes that you haven't done yet, but you want to do? Yes, Amy.
Delicate Arch.
Okay, Amy, you haven't done Delicate Arch?
No,
Okay,
I've been there twice. I've never.
you've been to Arches twice and never been that hike. Okay. All right. Bryce Canyon? Is there a specific hike in there or just?
No,
Oh, you haven't been to the park yet? Okay. All right. Very good. All right. So any hike at Bryce Canyon. Very good.
Someone online says Havasu Falls.
Havasu Falls. I've heard of this, but I have never been there. So I think that's on my list. It's worth it. It's good. Okay. Zion, have you been there yet? No? Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Very, very cool. Zion is really neat. Coyote Gulch. Okay. I think I've heard of that one. Oh, they're sending you websites. Okay. Okay. Amy's monitoring the Zoom or the Zoom chat for us. So we had something. How many people do we have on Zoom with us? You have 45 folks on Zoom with us from around the state. So
There's quite a few Cache County trails. Someone says,
okay.
also Antelope Slot Canyon.
Okay.
And then there's someone that's working their way across the Oregon section of the PCT.
Okay. Pacific Crest Trail. Nice. I would love to do some of that myself one day. One day I have visions. I just talked to somebody that did the one in Spain, and I can't think of the name of it now. But and that just sounded super cool. Super cool. Okay. All right, so getting back to our apps and websites. So you can use these to find ones that are appropriate for you, that kind of are at your level and what you're looking to do, or even just the time that you have. Or sometimes it's not you, but your guests. If somebody comes to visit you in town, like, okay, I'm used to the elevation, but if I have people come visit me from the Midwest where I'm from, they're like, they can't go climb, a big mountain. So I have to do something that they can do. So it's really helpful to find things that whatever it is that to meet your needs, the hikes that whatever that may be on that particular day. The GPS tracking helps you stay on the right path. I tend to get lost, so that's really helpful for me. When having that tracking, I was like, oops, I think I turned here and the trail actually went that way. So I'm gonna go back. So the reviews are also really, really helpful on there because I can get a sense of what the current trail conditions are like. And I was just using it actually because I was planning my hikes for the spring, and some of them I wasn't sure what their conditions are like generally in the spring. So I had the person helping me go back like a couple years and look the last couple springs because I know last spring was a little bit abnormal in terms of how long winter lasted. So going back a couple of years, then I was able to see what is this typically like around this time of the year. And so then I was able to plan better, you know, like, oh, this one is muddy. we're not gonna do that one, but this one seems like it's a better option. And then to save your favorite trails and routes. So you can see which ones you've done and you can make notes and you can do reviews yourself too after you've had experience doing it. So as I said, I like to use all trails. And so this is what it looks like when you look up a trail on all trails. So first of all, it's going to give you a map that you can open up and download, which is really nice. So you can have that even if you don't have a signal on your phone, a Wi-Fi or a cellular signal. The difficulty rating. So it's going to give you whether it's easy, moderate, or hard. Now, what's hard for me might not be hard for somebody else and vice versa, right? So, or what's easy for me might be really hard for somebody else. So you have to really think about some other things that are going to tell you how this hike is going to compare to other ones you've done. You use the miles, so the length and the elevation gain. That's really going to give you the better estimate of like how hard this is going to be for you. Okay, and I'm going to give you an example of that. I have a couple of slides to kind of show you how that works. But basically, you also have the time, the average amount of time that it takes to do a hike. Again, that's average based on people who, like when they start the trail, they start, and when they finish the trail, they'll hit end. So it's based on all the people that have done that trail and the time that it's taken them to do it. And then this one is for wind caves. Have anybody done wind caves up here? Yeah, that's a cool one, isn't it? Really cool. Okay.
Question.
Yeah.
Does it leave reviews or information for kid-friendly hikes?
You can certainly look to see, but
Yes.
yeah, in the reviews, you can look at that. But I would say more importantly is just to look at the elevation gain and the length of the hike, and then know the kids that you're with to know if it's like, is it kid friendly? Well, I don't know. It might be friendly to this child, but not this one. This child does not like hiking and they're going to complain the whole time. And I've seen that and it's not very fun. Okay, so and then the route type. So is it an out and back where we're going to go? And those are nice because you can go as far as you want. And you know, if you say like I have 2 hours to hike, so I'm going to go, I know I'm going to hike for an hour, and then wherever I am, I'm just going to stop, even if it's a 7-mile hike and I'm not going to finish it. I can hike for an hour and then I can just turn back around, and I know it's going to take me about an hour, unless you've gone uphill, in which case you might say like it's going to take me, I need 2/3 of the time to go uphill and like a third to go back down the hill. So it might not be 50-50, right, for the whole time. So keep that in mind. Or it might be a looped trail, and that's a little bit harder to turn around. I mean, you still can, but depending on kind of what it is and how it works, that might be a little more tricky. Because you might get to a point and it's like, well, it's about the same if I just keep going as if I turned around. So it's like one or the other, doesn't matter. Okay, you also get that description, which is nice. And what I would look for in there, it'll tell you like what you can expect to see, if there's like a waterfall at the end, or this one talks about rock formations. Of course, that's the wind cave at the end when you get to the top. But it says, you know, well, and it says this is on the easy side. And I don't know, for those of you, I mean, I did this hike and I wouldn't necessarily call it easy. Like it wasn't like a gradual incline. So, but they're saying it's relatively easy. So that's why you have to look at the elevation gain. There may be a few challenges along the way. So there's a few steep spots. Okay, and then also I'm going to get the weather and then those reviews from people. And I don't know, like if a trail has a really like low review, that might be like, yeah, there's not a lot to see on this trail. It's like, it's kind of meh. So that might not be a big highlight. So you want to look at if a lot of people are rating it highly, it's like, yeah, this is probably a worth doing at least once to see myself, kind of trail. But those reviews, as I said, can be really, really helpful. All right, so looking at whether it says there's mud or rocky. Has anybody ever had to do rock scrambling on a hike? Like climbing up boulders, like it's a big boulder field, and yeah. Yeah, so that's not everybody's favorite thing. So sometimes that's the only way to get past a certain area is to do that, bouldering and or rock scrambling. And but if you know that ahead of time, you know, look at the description and see that that's part of the trail, then you would avoid that one. So that's why it's really important to look at the descriptions. And or if you need, if it's snowy and it's telling you there's a lot of snow on the trail or snowy or icy or slippery, you know, oh, I probably want to bring some poles with me or some spikes, micro spikes. All right, so the example that I wanted to show on this, so let's say that so these are, we have the same elevation gain, but the green line is a 4-mile hike and the red line is a 2-mile hike. So what do you see? There's a difference. The elevation gain is the same, but what happens in the red one? It's a lot steeper, right? So that's going to be a lot harder. Even though it's shorter, that's going to be a lot harder. I might need more endurance to do the longer one, but a longer hike, like I will almost every time pick a longer hike, just because I'm more of an endurance person than that steep one that's gonna just like I'm about, you know, I'll feel like I'm about to die what before I get to the top. But over time, everything gets easier, right? Because you get in better shape. Okay, and then another example is this one. So if we look at this, we see the green line is this steady incline. So this is just like, oh my gosh, I'm going uphill the whole time. And you're like, are we ever gonna go down? Well, not until you get to the top, and then you're gonna go down the whole time. Okay, so the other way is if you have like some ups and downs. So you have some ups and downs, which is always a funny thing when you think about, you go down to go up. It's always kind of funny. But that's how this works. But you can see here what's happening. That's a really steep section right there. And it's pretty long. So thinking about that too, it's like when you kind of get a sense of what that looks like, it's going to tell you like, oh, that's maybe not something that I want to try. That looks a little rough. Even though the elevation gain is the same, that one's going to be, the red one's going to seem a lot harder in places. But also I'm going to get a little break from going uphill. So it just kind of depends on what you can handle and what you're in the mood for. So what do you look for? How do you figure this out using All Trails? All Trails is really cool in that it gives you this elevation map. So you guys can see what this shows you is, and this is for the Crimson Trail. Has anybody done that up here? Crimson Trail, okay. All right, so this is showing you what's going to happen on the Crimson Trail. So basically you're going to go up. It's a fairly steady incline to get up. And then once you get to the top elevation, you're pretty much staying at that same elevation. There's a little bit of up and down there, a little bit, and then you're gonna kind of slowly go down. So this is showing you like, okay, now I kind of see what this looks like. I know what to expect. It also helps you to kind of pace yourself when you're out on the trail. So you know, like, oh, there's going to be a steep section coming up. Or you know what, this is my last hard push of uphill, and then it's going to be all downhill. That fun part when you get to go back down. So the elevation map is really a good thing to check out before you decide what hike you're going to do. And then on All Trails, you get this nice fluorescent green looking trail. It shows you where you are. Now, once you click start, you're going to get a little dot where it's going to show you where you are along that trail. This is really helpful. So like if you took a wrong turn here and you just kept going here, your dot's going to be over here. If you look at that map, it's like, oh, I'm not on the trail. So then you're going to have to figure out. And then if you're me, you like start walking this way and you have to see like which way you're going, because it's like, wait a minute, okay, nope, the dot's not going the right way. Nope, this way. Okay, oh, this is getting me back towards this. So I'm not good at directions. If you're getting my drift on that. So I have to a lot of times do a lot of trial and error of, am I going the right way? I watch my dot. That's really helpful. Okay, so this is super helpful when you're out, and like I said, you can download these maps from All Trails, and then you have this to guide you as you're going. Really helpful if you get off track. Okay, question for you guys. What has been your most memorable hiking experience? And what made it special? Was it a place you went to, or something you saw along the trail? Somebody, yeah?
I'd say he was landing at times.
Uh-huh. Okay, Yeah, so if you're not familiar with Angel's Landing, it has the like the chain that you hold on to while you're doing it. Yeah, so I haven't done it. I know people who have. It's on my list. Yep, so that's awesome. Do you feel so good like after you accomplish that? You're like, I did that. Yeah, that's
It was so fun.
yeah, that's awesome. Anybody else have a one that yeah?
Really, really long, hard.
Uh-huh.
Like the end result is just like gorgeous waterfalls that you get to swim in. And so it's like the end result is like
Was worth it.
I did all that hard work and it paid off. Like so
Yeah. Yeah, sometimes when you reach that end and you see that thing, you know, whether it be a lake or an amazing view or a waterfall or a cool rock formation or whatever it is, it's just like it just makes it all worth it. And then you like take that in, you just soak it in for a while, of course, take your pictures, and we have some online.
valley because you get to be
Ah.
in and climb on everything.
Oh yeah, that's fun.
And
Like a rock
so
playground.
it's-
Oh, Timpanogos Cave. Yeah, so that's down in our area. And I haven't been there yet, but it's on my list. Definitely need to go there. Has anybody been to Timpanogos Cave? Yeah, you have? Was it cool? Oh, okay, awesome. So that would be a cool kid friendly thing, I think, to do.
The Bryce Canyon would be.
Awesome. Cool. Very good. Okay, so let's move into what concerns us about hiking in Utah. What are some things that you're like, ooh? Yes, sir. Okay. Yep, that's legit. Cougars. Yep. Not knowing the right equipment. Oh, yeah, especially like if you're in the Narrows. Yeah, where we don't, or somewhere, yeah, that's really scary, right?
Hear all the answers.
Oh, okay, I'll repeat, I'm sorry. So we've heard rattlesnakes, cougars, and flash floods.
Online said ticks and my kids falling off the edge.
Yes. Falling, yeah, so ticks, yes, and falling off the edge is gonna always be scary. Or worrying about your kids falling off the edge, yeah. Or adults that act like kids. Yes. We've probably all been with some of those before. Okay, so moving into seasonal hiking. Now, have you guys hiked in the winter? How many of you guys have hiked in winter? Yeah? Sort of, kind of. All right, so when I first moved to Utah, I moved here from Iowa about 4 years ago. And I didn't do much outside in Iowa in the winter because it's like negative degree, it's negative degrees. It's so cold and the wind chill is freezing. So I did not do things outside. And so when I moved here and I heard people talking about hiking in winter, I was like, are you kidding me? Like, that just sounds crazy until I tried it. And then I was like, oh, this is so pretty and it's amazing. So getting to be outside all year round, there's really not a season that you can't be outside with the exception of the mud time in the spring, which is really rough. And that's just, you have to figure out which trails are not as muddy. But we'll talk about that in a second. So, but winter hiking. So hiking in the snow, it's so pretty and so nice. And if it has not been packed down for you, you can use snowshoes, which is really fun too. You can get out. I've been snowshoeing up here. I think I went to Tony Grove around that area, and I've been cross country skiing at Green Canyon. So, I have friends that are up here and we always try to, I like to explore the area. So I know you guys have really great areas to do outdoor activities all year round here. But we do want to watch for mud in the spring. And again, we'll come back to that one. So in the summer, guess what? When it's really hot down here, you get to go up to natural air conditioning if you go up to the mountains, go up to higher elevations, and it's amazing. It's so nice and cool. So some of the things that you need to think about are making sure you have enough water with you because let's face it, it's very dry. And I know at first I didn't get this, that like I'm not sweating, so I didn't feel like I was losing water, but it just evaporates. So I'm still sweating. So I had to figure out that I need to make sure I'm hydrated. You might want to have a water filtration device with you. There's different contraptions called life straws. You can even get those at Costco, or you can get them online. So there's different water filters that you can have with you if you're going to be out for an extended period of time. Of course, sunscreen or sun protective clothing is another option. And then when it's hunting season, you want to be careful about that So you're wearing something brightly colored because there are hunters out there and they are in the same areas in those national forests and other areas. I have seen hunters with big scary crossbows. And I'm like, oh, I do not want them to think I'm an animal. Absolutely do not. So yeah, so making noise, making sure you stay on the trail and being visible are always really helpful. Okay, so when you are going to hike in the winter, we have to worry about avalanches. You guys have avalanche issues up here? I know we do, down in Salt Lake area. So what you're going to want to do before you're going to do a hike in the winter is go to the Utah Avalanche Center. They're going to give you a rating for the particular area that you're looking to hike in, and it'll give you a low, moderate, considerable, high, or extreme in terms of avalanche danger for that area in on that particular day. And the conditions change very rapidly. So what you're looking for are these reports. So like this is an example here. It'll have the area. So it's giving you the specific area. So this is Little Cottonwood Canyon, mid-north side. And it's telling you this was actually closed. They closed the canyon because of avalanche danger here. And they're estimating that it would open at and you see this was going to close on the 12th at 10 p.m. So this was just this week and open again. That was yesterday in the evening. So they're actually like with the word they're closing that. There's too much danger there. And then it's giving you the specific information about where that is. So always check this out before you do any winter hiking. So in terms of what the factors are that make it more likely that there will be avalanches, it's going to be your wind, the degree of the slope, and then the whether it's a north or south facing slope. So especially in the spring when they're south facing slopes, it's going to get more sun, which means the snow is going to get more melty. And then if you have a higher slope, it's more likely to go and slide down. And then the wind, of course, factors into that too, making it more likely to slide down. So you can kind of see some of those things that are hiking after a storm, wet snow, and bottom of slopes is not really where you want to be. Bottom of a steep slope is not where you want to be when it's a high avalanche risk. Okay. All right, so muddy trails. Muddy trails you're likely to encounter sometimes in the winter when it's an area where there's been some snow meltage if you have a warm day, or just in the spring. A lot of times, later March and April can be really rough and muddy out there. So if you come across this kind of a trail, or part of the trail, because I've been on, might not be the whole trail, but just certain areas of the trail have like these really muddy areas. So what I try to do when I come across something like this is go around or like stay on the side. So can I stay on the grass area or like, plant stuff? So I'm not walking in that mud. One of the reasons is because when you have too much, like if thousands of people are walking on this mud, what's going to happen to this trail? Yeah, it erodes it. That's right. So thinking about all those feet, when you walk in mud, it goes smush, 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 right? And it's pushing the mud out of the way. So basically what's happening is you're messing up the trail, and it's very, very difficult to repair that because it's a natural trail. It's like not like they come back in and like, okay, let's just form the dirt back the way it was. So it can create like permanent damage to those trails. So we want to be really careful about that. So trying your best to like, when you see that, instead of walking right through the mud, try to go around it to the side or avoid it. Also, that's one of the reasons why you want to go to on all trails. If you see that particular trail that you're looking at, if reviews said it's really muddy, don't do it. Don't do it until you see reviews that say it's not muddy anymore. So it's going to be not only a better experience for you, but it's going to help keep the trail in better shape. Okay, so what should you bring when you're hiking? So part of this is going to depend on, are you staying on a trail that's pretty close in or more remote? If you're going out, and especially if you're going to be by yourself, you're gonna wanna have, if you're going somewhere more remote and by yourself, then you're gonna wanna have a lot more with you. So you're gonna wanna have survival gear if you're gonna do that. If you're with someone and you're staying in a more well-trafficked trail, then you don't probably need to bring as much of that kind of stuff because you're gonna, first of all, have somebody with you that can get help. Also, you're gonna be around other people that can help. So I would say, this might seem overwhelming if you're like, if you're just going to a local trail, I would say, no, you don't need to bring all of these things if you are going to a close by local trail that's pretty well trafficked. Probably you'll be okay with a few items. It's just really when you're going out by yourself that you'll want to have everything in case, imagine the scenario that you get lost and you have to, you're overnight, you can't find your way out. It's happened. Okay, so having a backpack is one of the first things. So getting a good hiking backpack, a lightweight backpack, having a jacket or layers that are appropriate, snacks are so important when you're hiking. First aid kits are really good. That's not a bad thing to have with you all the time in your backpack. I keep one with me all the time just because you never know what's going to happen. Even on a simple trail, you can slip and cut yourself or something like that. So you might want to have something to clean a cut and Band-Aids, a headlamp. If you're going to go out later in the afternoon, something happens, you don't get back in time and it's dark. A headlamp, I got mine on Amazon. It's rechargeable with the USB, so it's really nice. I just keep it charged. When I go out, I grab it and I have it in my backpack. So some of the other things, if you are going into areas, if it's snowing, how many of you guys have used micro spikes before or know what I'm talking about when I say micro spikes? Okay, well, so micro spikes are things that go over your hiking boots and they're stretchy. They're like silicone or rubber and they have metal teeth on the bottom and that helps to grip the ice and snow. So they're super helpful when you're going to be doing anything when you're going to be walking on packed snow or ice. It's not helpful. It's not helpful if you're walking on snow that's like this tall. That's when you want snowshoes. But if it's packed snow that's kind of like melts and freezes over and gets icy, that's when you're going to want those micro spikes. So really, really helpful if you want to hike in the winter. You can get them on Amazon. You can get them at Owls. I got a bunch up here when I was up here at Owls. So that's a good place to get them too. Excuse me. If you're going to be somewhere where there might be bears, bear spray is a good idea, or a bear whistle. Okay. All right, so some best practices for when you're hiking. Now, a lot of people aren't aware of this, or how who yields to who. So I wanted to talk about that. A lot of our trails, we might have people who are trail running, hiking, biking, cross-country skiing, snowshoeing. Most of the time, we're not going to have like snowmobiles on trails. They're going to be somewhere else. But and horses, we might have horses on our trails too. So we are going to be sharing the road, so to speak, with a lot of different other people. So hikers are going to yield to horses, skiers, and bikers. And then also downhill hikers are going to yield to uphill hikers. Unless you say you're going uphill and you're like, you know what, you come on down, I need a break. Or you don't even have to tell them you need a break, but just you want a break. So you guys, just like wave them on down, like, oh, you go ahead, just be nice, like, yeah. But the courtesy, the right of way is for the people that are going up because they don't want to lose their momentum just to stop. Also, it's really nice to, if you're going at a slower pace or you have a bigger group with you, to kind of pull over and let somebody like a single hiker or like a couple people go around you, in looking for a place where it's like safe to do so, like not where there's a 30-foot drop off and you're going to be right by the edge. You don't want that. Okay. So, other things. So watersheds and dogs. So there are areas, and I don't know does anybody know of any watershed areas up here in Cache County where you're not allowed to have dogs? Okay. So I know in Salt Lake area, in Big Cottonwood and Little Cottonwood Canyons, we are not allowed to have dogs, and humans are not allowed to go in any bodies of water there, and we're not allowed to have any boats in the water. like kayaks or paddle boards. We can't have them. So the reason is to protect the water because it becomes our drinking water. So basically the snow melts from the mountains and the water just kind of flows down and goes to the water treatment areas. So we don't want it to be contaminated with material from dogs. Let's just call it, okay? Or anything from human bodies as well. So we want to keep our watershed clean. So some things to think about also with dogs are that there are places where dogs are not allowed, or they need to be on a leash. So a lot of times people like to have their dogs unleashed. There are some places and some trails where they'll do like even and odd days. So it's like on even days you can have your dog there, but they need to be on a leash. On odd days you can have your dog, but they can be off leash. So if you don't have a dog and you don't like dogs, the day that they're off leash is not the day you want to go on that trail. Okay, so and of course, if you don't like dogs, then you can go to the watershed trails where there won't be dogs. So also things you can find out on all trails. Yeah, so make sure you know, and if you are hiking with your dog, and who doesn't like to hike with their dog? If you have one, make sure you know what the rules are. And for example, like you can't take dogs to national parks on hikes. You can have them on like sidewalks around the area, but you're not allowed to take them into national parks, like on trails. So you have to plan accordingly on that. Leave no trace policies is another one that's really important. So how many of you guys have been doing a hike and our friends with dogs have left little presents along the trail? Everybody seen that before? Yeah, so why does that happen? It happens because people have the best intentions of, I don't want to carry this around with me the whole time their dog uses the bathroom at the beginning of the hike. And you're like, oh, okay, well, I'm too far to go back to the beginning and throw it away at the trailhead. So I'm just going to leave it here. And on the way back, I'm going to grab it and throw it away. But then what happens is but I'm going to just hide it behind this rock or this tree. And then what happens is you forget and then you hid it from yourself. And now it's there for everybody to see, like forever until some nice person comes and cleans it up. So we want to be really careful about that because nobody really wants to pick up other people's dogs' waste. It's not cool, and it just ruins the vibe on the trail. It's just not what we want. So there is a thing called pliking. Have you guys heard of this? Pliking. You know what it stands for?
I don't, but I remember that it's about packing both your waste and other people's waste out with you just to make it.
That's right. That's right. So pliking is called, it stands for picking up litter while hiking. Pliking. Okay, and it's a real thing. You can Google it. So are pliking groups, and they plan hikes where specifically the purpose is to go out on the trail and pick up waste. So, it might not be every time you go out, but when you do, like you might bring gloves in a bag so you can pick up some trash along the way and be a nice good Samaritan for that day, And if everybody did that, imagine our trails would be so much cleaner. Okay, what kind of wildlife have you guys seen? Who's seen the coolest animal while you've been out? Salamanders? Swimming salamanders? Swimming salamanders. Anybody seen anything cool? In Utah? Not in Utah? Hawks? Oh, that's cool. I saw a tarantula on a hike once. It was just walking along the trail. A rubber boa. Okay. Has anyone seen rattlesnakes? Heard them. Yep. Muskrats, beavers. Okay. Cool. All right. So of my animals that I have here, so these are all animals that you might see while you're hiking in Utah. What might you be the most scared of? Moose, bear, cougars, snake. The snakes, unless you bother the snake, it's probably not gonna mess with you unless you, what's that?
Online bears.
Bears, yeah, bears. Yeah, bears are no joke. We don't want to mess with bears. Okay. All right, so we might see these animals. I remember not too long ago, you guys had a cougar around here on campus. Yeah, we've had cougars around our hiking areas as well in our canyons. They've attacked dogs, like hikers who with dogs. And so that I heard somebody tell me a story about that, and I was like, oh, that sounds so, so sad. His dog got attacked. So yeah, so these are real dangers to us when we're hiking. So we do need to really be cognizant and be careful about animals that might be out there. Wildflowers happen in the summer and they are so beautiful here, you guys. So I definitely recommend usually around July. I'm guessing it's going to be late July here because in Salt Lake area it's like around mid-July. So I'm guessing it's just a little bit later here, maybe a couple weeks, but like late July, beginning of August is probably your peak time for wildflowers, but they do last for a few weeks. So I highly recommend getting out. That second picture is Tony Grove. So you see some beautiful columbines there in the field, but it's beautiful. I mean, if you haven't seen it, I highly recommend checking out the wildflowers. And then just to wrap up, some safety tips. Just make sure that you know what you're doing when you go out there, especially if you're doing something you've never done before. Try not to go by yourself, but if you do, be extra prepared and have extra, supplies and equipment. Try to keep track of where you are at all times with the GPS. If you are not sure what's going on, just go back the way you came. If you get lost, just stay calm. Look for signs. If you're injured, just try to find someone who can help you. Rest if you need to, because if you I know sometimes my legs get really tired and then I start slipping and falling a lot on rocks, and that's kind of scary. So be careful about that. As far as hiking groups, so you don't have to hike by yourself. You're like, I want to hike. I'm so inspired by this presentation that I want to go do all the hikes now, but I don't want to go by myself and I don't know who to hike with. Okay, there are Facebook groups and meetup.com. So if you guys haven't been to meetup.com, this is where I learned a lot of the hikes around where I am. So there are groups on there that have hikes planned for me. I don't have to plan them. I just read the description of them. And then I can go to All Trails and look it up and see, does this seem like something I can do? So find the ones that don't leave you behind because there are some groups that just don't care. They're like, we're going at this pace, and if you can't keep up, that's your problem. There are some that are really nice and they wait for you. So just try to get a sense of what's the culture of the group. But there are cool groups out there. Some nice hikes around here in your area if you haven't done these. So Tony Grove, I've talked about a couple times. Temple Fork Sawmill, I haven't been there, but I want to. And then White Pine Lake, I've heard is very beautiful. Has anybody done that one? Yeah. Do you recommend it? Yeah. Okay, awesome. All right, so this one's going to be up the top of my list. I'm going to do it this year for sure.